Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. So today is about sensitivity and about trusting our own sensitivity. I had to go to the dentist the other day, a new dentist, for a first appointment, and they took photographs and X-rays and all the usual things. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was not talked down to. I was not lectured at. I was not belittled or scolded. And that was that was lovely, because generally when I've gone to dentists before, that's been very common. And I was really impressed with how professional they were, how nicely set up the location was. The waiting room was very relaxed. There was some pleasant music playing. It was all very, very well done. Anyway, I got home, and the following day, late morning, about 24, 26 hours after the visit, I noticed I was just feeling crap. I was feeling off. And I thought, this is not normal. This is not just, I'm a bit tired after the week, or maybe I'm worried about something. It wasn't just kind of, normal. I thought, there's something a bit off here. What have I done in the last 24, 48 hours that's been different? And I remembered the X-rays. And I thought, well, let's look it up. So I fired up ChatGPT and asked, is it possible for people to feel ill after an X-ray? And I got a long, convoluted response explaining to me that, no, you can't get radiation poisoning from an X-ray at the dentist. If somebody feels unwell, it's because they had anxiety before they went in. In other words, it's because of their own psychological issues, that they think that they've experienced something untoward as a result of the X-ray. And I thought that's really interesting. So I went back. I said, thank you for that. This is definitely to do with the X-rays. And it came back and said, oh, good, thank you for clarifying that. Yes, it is possible to feel unwell after the X-rays. And there's actually a subset of people who might feel unwell as a result of the X-rays. And this subset of people are people who have a very high interoceptive awareness. Now, if you're not familiar with that word, I am familiar with that word. Interoceptive awareness means a high degree of sensitivity to what's happening in the body or within the self. So interoceptive awareness would include things like being able to track our emotional shifts, being able to track our inner energies, being able to track if our heart is behaving strangely, change in heartbeat, excessive temperature, excessive tension, weakness, nausea, joy, enthusiasm, all sorts of things that are felt on the inside. So what it was basically saying was, the subset of people who might feel unwell after an X-ray is the subset of people who are highly aware of what's going on inside them. So another way of saying that would be, the people who notice something's wrong are the people who are very good at noticing what's going on inside them. In other words, they are the noticers. So the people who notice are the people who notice. It's a really, really basic summing up. The people who notice are the people who notice. And I reflected on that and thought, that's very interesting. Because of course that's the case. Of course that's the case. So this was a real reinforcement to me of trusting the sensitivity, trusting my own sensitivity, and not going the route that the original response on ChatGPT was suggesting, which is to try to find out what's wrong with me, that I would have this reaction. In other words, there's no good reason to have the reaction. So if I'm having the reaction, it means that I am out of balance, that there's something wrong with me that needs to be fixed. So this reinforced for me there's actually nothing wrong with me. Now, there may be lots of things wrong with me, you may argue. those who've known me for a long time, there are many things about me that could be better. However, on this occasion, it was a really good reminder to trust the sensitivity that is there. And actually, if you think about it, the fact that we have these sensitivities, it's got to be there for a reason. Otherwise, it would have been bred out by now, we could argue. These inner sensitivities that we have, where we notice what's happening within us, we notice if there's something that's off, we notice if we don't feel right. Let's trust that. And let's follow that. And if we do share with someone that something feels a bit off, then if they come back and say, no, there's no reason for you to feel off. If you feel off, it means there's something wrong with you. Don't necessarily accept that. Question that. And it could be, like I had to do with the ChatGPT, it could be that you have to say to them, no, actually, I'm absolutely confident that there is something that's not right. Can we just assume that I'm not bonkers and maybe I'm noticing something? Now, what do you think? And actually, a lot of people will respond to that and say, oh, sorry, I hadn't understood. I hadn't realized that actually this is something you really are taking seriously. Well, in that case, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? So let's trust our sensitivity because it's there for a reason. And in my case, with the X-ray, I've now spoken to my homeopath and she's sending me a remedy. It's a combination of homeopathic remedies that she's put together specifically for things like X-rays or intrusive operations. She has different formulas depending on what it is that you're going to have done to you when you go in and they get their hands on your body. So she's going to send me a remedy because she says the effects actually can last longer than we think. So I feel pretty normal now, back to normal. But she's advised me that actually the effects can last a bit longer. So I will take the remedy. So trust your sensitivity. It's there for a reason. Thank you for watching and listening. And thank you for having the sensitivity to realize that tuning into Truth and Transcendence is a good idea. Please tell your friends. Please check out other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Have a wonderful week and I'll see you next time.